let's talk about thank you notes first. This is when you send a thank you note to a recruiter or hiring manager after an interview, presumably. So let's talk about this. Okay. Yeah, I get people asking me about this occasionally. Listen, it's a big wide world out there. Everything you could possibly imagine happens some of the time, right? There isn't just one right way of doing things that always works and that applies universally. There's different things that happen, but we're going to talk about the general rule, okay, when it comes to thank you notes. Most people don't send them. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't. It just means that not many people do. Some people do, but the problem is it's very labor intensive. If you're applying to a lot of jobs and you're taking a lot of interviews, it's just yet another thing to do. And especially if you're like customizing them, you got to put some thought into it. And that's thinking work, and it's just yet another thing you got to do. And it's regarded as optional. So a lot of people don't do it. Okay, so here's the deal. First of all, don't expect a response from a thank you note. Should you do them? The odds are is that it's not going to do any good, but sometimes it does. So does that mean you should do it all the time or not? It's a question of how much time do you have and how many jobs have you applied to and how many interviews have you got. What I'd recommend is that you certainly send a thank you note. Excuse me, God, I'm still under the weather. Certainly send a thank you note for every important job, okay? If you got an interview and it wasn't just some Mickey Mouse interview, it was for something you really wanted, definitely send a thank you note. The way you want to do this ideally is you want to know the people that interviewed you. So you know their names, you know their email address, right? And then afterwards, after the interview, within 24 hours, you send them an email or a DM that basically is short and it says, thank you for giving me the interview, okay? The reason you want to do this is because in theory, it signals that you're enthusiastic, that you're attentive. Now, is it taken that way? A lot of times it isn't. A lot of the times recruiters don't even look at these because they're overworked enough as it is. But sometimes a recruiter will look at it, or a hiring manager will look at it, and it will sort of signal that you're taking that opportunity seriously, you're enthusiastic about it, and it also signals that you're professional and you're attentive and you have good communication skills if you do it right. Okay? So certainly for jobs you care about, especially, you do want to be sending some kind of thank you note. Okay? Only say positive things. If you're not going to say like 100% positive things, then don't bother. Okay? And I get it. There's a lot of rude, incompetent, unprofessional recruiters and hiring managers out there. I'm the first to admit that. So sometimes you may not feel like sending one. Okay. Now here's what I recommend. If you're going to send some kind of template thank you email, personally for me, I would say don't bother. It won't do any good. The only time it's going to really make an impact on the person receiving it is if you say something that's sort of tailored to them and you try and make them feel good about something good that they did for you. Okay? Everybody loves to get a compliment, especially if they think it's legitimate. Okay? They don't like to get like a generic thing that they think is a template. If they feel that you're actually saying something to them and you're showing genuine appreciation, that makes people feel good. Okay? If you say how often do you get someone coming up to you and saying, hey, that thing you did yesterday, when you did that thing, you called me and you gave me this information, thanks for that. That's fantastic. Most people don't take the trouble to do it, but you did. And I really appreciate it. So way to go. How often do you get someone saying something like that to you? Probably not super often, just playing the odds. but it makes you feel really good, right? So imagine if you're a recruiter and you deal with tons of candidates, and most of them don't send thank you emails. And the ones that do, usually it's like some kind of template. Thank you for considering my application. I look forward to meeting you in the future. That doesn't do that. That just annoys you, if anything. It's like more work you got to deal with. But if someone says, hey, listen, I met you yesterday. If you recall, like, you invited me down for an interview, and I really appreciated the way that, you offered me a drink as soon as I got there, and you made sure that I was doing fine. I've been to a lot of interviews, and a lot of people don't do that, so I really appreciated how welcoming and hospitable you were. I found that's quite exceptional. And it really made me feel good. So thank you very much for being so cordial and polite. Something like that. That was great. It was very, very nice to meet you. And I hope that we will have the opportunity to do so again in the future. Thanks and have a great day. Something like that, People see that and they go, oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure, and they get a good feeling about you. It's also very professional, very polite, right? So if you can do that, then it's well worth doing this. It'll get you some extra points, okay? It'll be better than your competitors, the other candidates who didn't send thank you notes, okay? So that's what I want to say about that. So a standard format would be, I'm just looking at my notes here, just something like saying, thank you for taking the time or selecting me to interview. I appreciated, and then fill in the blank. I appreciated the way that you, asked me about my welfare or something when I came in, and made sure that, I had a place to sit down and a place to hang my coat, and, you offered me some refreshments and stuff like that. That was very, very nice and very gracious of you. Show a bit of enthusiasm, I had a really great time speaking with you yesterday, ! Something like that. You can put a bunch of stuff in there, but generally keep it short, maybe about 4 or 5 sentences, something like that, like just maybe in point form almost. And, that's basically all you have to have. So that's what I'd recommend. Should you do this for every job? Probably not. If you're applying for posted jobs, you're probably applying for a lot of jobs. It may not be practical to do this, and I don't think it's a great use of your time if you're spending a lot of time sending out tons of these. But certainly for jobs that are really desirable and you're really close to getting them, definitely. That's what I have to say about that.